There is a nerve that sings deeper than the five familiars, a sense that summons more than flesh or feeling can sigh or say. It cannot name what whispering spirit lays its message in the mind, or whose suggestion echoes from its narrow throat of smoke, whose intimations that a moment will invoke. Yet a suspicion speaks that we are guided by a voice that escapes the scrape of sound, that tugs the blood to some intent exterior to our own. I have paused in the middle and the motion of the day, when something near, beyond the random and the rounding of the ear, has said, though you are blind, my hand is here. Hello, my friends. And thank you for joining me for this episode of the Wild Sonnets Out Loud, 5 Poems Live. That was Wild Sonnet number 123 from the second book of Wild Sonnets. The next poem is from the 5th book of Wild Sonnets, and this is Wild Sonnet number 467. I sent my worries on to school, where they could learn to read the signals in the accident that come as cryptic and a creed, scribbled on the wall of aching slate and suggested into chalk. There is a lecture far beyond the halls of happenstance and talk. To the academy of this I made my worries walk. But the childishness of worry was no brighter than before, as nervous and unknowing of the mightier and more. So I sent ambition on to work, before the lazy sun could see the stars creep back into their dark captivity. The diligence of day was paid increasingly in trust, while worry stayed at home to memorize the dust. And that was Wild Sonnet number 467 from the Wild Sonnets Volume 5. The next reading is from the latest book of Wild Sonnets, Volume 7. This is Wild Sonnet number 683. Remove from me all I may remember, or deliver to me the most of what I thought I wanted. And what is left? The steam ascending from what I was into the paradisial past, or the dented and determinating needs that circumscribe and set the work I do? Who will I be when both are through? Before this body is no more, I will be no more than this, an echo and a witness to what I've heard and seen. Why were we given these framing faculties to perceive such populous and perpetuating scenery, to overwhelm the mind and its attending sense? What is the circus once they've taken down the tents? And that is Wild Sonnet number 683 from the Wild Sonnets, Volume 7. For the next poem, I'm reaching into the very first book of Wild Sonnets, Volume 1. This is Wild Sonnet number 32. Whatever of the immediate you can make is gift and gain enough. Those riches vaulted deep in our imagination, which for the now may not be reached, are in their value level with all that has been lost and spent. Hollow is the habit of mind that misprizes all that is before its fading rises. It cannot be felt, though it is everywhere. Finality, slow to begin and quick to fall. The eye attunes to objects absent easily, knows in nostalgia only, missing more the manic strokes of time's wild brushes, less certain to see until the frenzy's framed in the gallery of all that's gone, but named. And that's from the Wild Sonnets, Volume 1, Wild Sonnet number 32. And the last poem is from the 4th book of Wild Sonnets, and it follows the theme that is sort of threaded through this reading, the notion of passions that we have and how sometimes they, or maybe more often, disappoint. But sometimes the poem means that, or means to say, that we do not come to a realization of the value of them or the lack of value until we've actually realized what those passions have to offer. So, the last poem from the Wild Sonnets, Volume 4, is number 316. Shameful that the surest way to exorcise the demon of a dream is to make it real. Desire fills and falls as fire and water both, the panting of conviction as often extinguished by its own quick breath, arousal and erasure in an instant kiss, devouring at first what it later will dismiss. The decades will teach you to be calm, each year a lesson in the hard book of being. Lectern and lantern, Diogenes and docent, search the ancient streets to find an honest answer, only to land in the muddle and the crowd of havoc and voice, of peddlers and thieves, the promise of demons in which only love believes. And that is Wild Sonnet number 316 from the Wild Sonnets, Volume 4. There are 7 volumes of the Wild Sonnets, and each of the books has 100 wild sonnets in it. I want to thank you so much for listening. If you're interested in learning more about the Wild Sonnets, visit me at our website, www.wildsonnets.com. I'll be back next week with another 5 poems in a Wild Sonnets Out Loud reading. Until then, stay wild and stay well.